Singapore's dramatic transformation in the 70s produced artworks that started to question authority and traditions in the 80s. In this episode, I look at artists who are considered the avant-garde, producing work that pushes the boundaries of what is acceptable in art. So what forms did this avant-garde take? I am an 80s child. As a teen, the Singapore then was a clean and green one. It was orderly but exciting. There was optimism in the air. New highways, buildings and malls were built. Food courts replaced hawker centers. I watched movies from Hollywood, wore Levi's jeans, read Smash Hits magazine, and ate and studied at Burger King. While we were overwhelmed by Western influences, we were also Asians with so-called Asian values. So what did it mean to be Singaporean? A group of artists from the Nanyang Academy of Fine Arts came together to question Singaporean identity through their work titled Trimurti. In 1988, three young men fresh out of art school got together to create a show inspired by Eastern philosophy. I'm about to meet them to find out more. So I just wanted to ask you about your work from 26 years ago, Trimurti. And can you tell me what was the inspiration behind it?
Actually, the Trimurti is an outcome of against the resistance against the school of looking at the education system. And we three thought that we should graduate. It's supposed to be part of the graduation show. We're supposed to be part of it. And actually we said, no, we're not going to be part of the graduation show. Let's do something else out of the graduation show. So we sit down and discuss ourselves in a coffee shop and remember, okay, let's see what shall we do. Then we talk a lot of things. Then I told them about the three forces, the Trimurti, Brahma, Vishnu and Shiva. You know, it's the three different forces. And we can look at it from three different angles, like myself from Shiva, look at Indian perspective, Ichi from Vishnu, the preservator, and Salleh from Brahma, the creator, but taking our own philosophy of religion. I think what historically we were actually trying to locate our culture, aesthetic into our artwork. That is the historical direction we're looking at. We also want to redefine our art process in relation to the where we're coming from. Two is the location, second is our cultural background. I think that's our main intention to look at Trimurti. And the term multiculturalism was very much also connected to our work. So multiculturalism became part of our art making process eventually because the diversity that we all are holding together. I mean, in one way, I can kind of endorse that multiculturalism, but not in a political sense, more artistic and social issues that we're dealing with, because we wasn't sure whether we are multiculturalism yet.
So when we were at NAFA, we were working together on the Eastern and the Western culture. In Singapore, when we decided to think about Singapore context, we feel that it should be international and local culture. How to blend the two together? Because Singapore at that time was becoming an international city. So that was the thing that we were trying to blend in, but yet at the same time trying to retain our own cultural identity.
But what we felt is that we are moving in a stronger direction. We still do now. We felt what was missing then was artists looking back on their own backyard instead of borrowing languages, instead of borrowing aesthetic from the outside world. We claim that we should look at ourselves more, and our struggle is always constantly looking at our individual art making process. And I think that was really a shift. Because I remember they saying that, oh, you guys looking very ethnic, very, very much localized, That was also an issue then. Like Chandra works always about Indian art, I didn't feel like why should I not be ashamed of that? I should be able to embrace that. I think that was a good beginning for us historically, to embrace that who we are.
The exhibition was very much an attempt to open up this discussion about ethnic identities and ways in which they can be discussed in contemporary society then. I think during the period people talk about it in terms of Asian values, and Asian values are rationalized to have given birth to the economic miracle that Singapore underwent in the 80s, and therefore the values that come with ethnicity became prominent and they were actively promoted as a set of values that defines ways in which we do things that are different from the West. The setting, the period, as at the same time too, their active involvement with the newer forms of art making, installation art performance that makes Trimurti important.
During this period, artists were struggling to create a new vocabulary that ran parallel to the rapid development of the city-state. Their voices were bold and often critical. What they wanted to say was not necessarily what the state wanted to hear. The visual arts were no longer just about paintings and sculptures. It had moved into the contemporary to express the complex issues of our times. Where would this take Singapore art? What's next?